Hi guys, so today's episode is for anyone who's looking to get their driver's license in Estonia. They may already have their driver's license from back home, they want to exchange it, or local Estonians who want to get this license because they are eligible to get it now. So in this episode, I spoke to Risto Kasemäe, who is the head of Mobility Management Division in Transport Department in Estonia, and he is the head of all the evaluators who go with us during the driving test. So in this episode, we spoke about different parts of driving test, including theory, practical, how we can prepare for it, what the law says, what are the areas they look into. I understand it may not be a very important video for some of you, but for foreigners like me, it is an important video because I wanted to get all this information from the authorities and then prepare myself, because exchanging a license is really important. But till now, I have not been able to do that. But I think after the information that I received from this interview, I would be well prepared when the next time I go for it. So I hope you like the interview and the information that you get out of it as well. Thanks. What is your main role, like how you are working with the team?
Well, I'm in charge of the state exams on driving motor vehicles.
Okay, so you're involved in the designing part of it, or like how you're involved in the exam side?
Well, practical side, so we have about 40 examiners all over Estonia, and they are in my unit.
Okay, right. So these 40 people are part of your team?
Yes.
Okay, and they are being hired and trained under your supervision, or the
Yes.
policies that are
Yes.
set by you?
Yes.
Okay, right, understood. And how many are there in Tallinn? These examinations?
In Tallinn there are about 12.
12.
Yeah.
Okay, and these are the main examiners who take all the practicals that we see at
Yes.
level 6?
Yes.
Okay. Right, so the main aim of this discussion is to find out what other things as experts or anyone, even locals, can do so that we can pass the exams like in maybe one or at the max two tries, not having like go through more tries.
Okay.
So what do you think? So first, if you can tell us about the exam, like how many parts is divided into, like if it's a theory, then how the theory part is structured.
Okay. The theory part is quite simple because it's done over the computer.
Yeah.
All the questions, all the answers are available in 3 languages: Estonian, Russian and English. If a person does not speak any of these 3 languages, person can ask for interpreter to join, and they can pass the theory exam. After the theory exam, people have right to take part in our practical test, and the practical test varies between the categories. For example, the exam for motorcycle is slightly different from car, and the bus is also different.
How many questions are in the theory part?
It's about 30-40 questions. And the thing which has changed a little bit over the past few years is you have only one right question.
Okay.
That makes a little bit clearer. And second thing which makes a little bit harder, you cannot make only one mistake regarding the traffic safety. If you are making a mistake regarding what I call a practical physics or the psychology, then it's a bit easier or not that how to say fatal mistake. Then we can forgive people. But if you are making a mistake regarding the traffic rules and the traffic safety, it's like in real life, sometimes you just don't get the second chance.
Okay, right. So we will be discussing more about the car license,
Okay.
right? So in that, if let's say it's between 30 to 40 questions,
Yeah.
and if I understood correctly, you're saying If it's a road safety question, we can maybe get one wrong.
Yes.
And if there are any other different parts, then it could be more than one.
Yes.
But in road safety, it's only one question
Yes.
that we can get wrong.
Yes.
Everything else needs to be
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Okay. And if we get more, we just fail the exam.
Yes. And the program in our tablet will tell you right away if you have passed or didn't pass.
Okay, and let's say someone passes the exams, so they can directly go and
Yes.
get the dates for the practical exam.
Yes.
Okay, and if they fail, do they have to wait for a certain time?
Not,
or they can
not really. You can pretty much go and register for the second attempt or the third or whatever. We don't have any time between the theoretical exam parts.
For the theory part as well, like, do you recommend any material that we can go through, or how do we prepare for that?
Well, the best way to prepare is there are different ways. First of all, there is our traffic law available in English version. I have given the link to it. It is pretty good advice to read it through. Second thing about the exams, regardless theory or practical, we have a lot of information on our website in 3 languages: Estonian, Russian, and English.
How busy are these theoretical timelines? Because if I remember, for practical, sometimes it's a long wait. Is it the same?
Theoretical exams, they don't have any significant waiting time. Obviously, summer times it's more busier and winter times less busier, but a week or two maybe, nothing's that special.
So once the exam is booked, the first rumor, that's just a rumor that we hear, that like if you book it outside of Tallinn, you have a higher chance of passing it the first time. What do you think about that?
There is a really good explanation for this. There is more traffic in Tallinn than in other towns and cities, and if there's more traffic, there is more chance to get into a tricky situation and hazardous situation, and that's the only thing which really counts. So it doesn't really matter where you go to. The traffic rules are pretty much the same, the traffic signs are the same, and all other things. Only thing what is different in Tallinn, there are just more cars, more people, the whole situation is more tense.
Okay, but in outside of Tallinn, obviously there would be less instructors per office as compared to Tallinn as well.
Yes.
So waiting time could be higher as well.
Well, yes. The smallest places somewhere in southern Estonia, they don't even have examiner present every day, so the other towns sort of cover them once or twice a week, so it is different. We try to keep our personnel where is the actual need for exams and visit the smaller places just once or twice a week. Okay. The sort of an intro of the exam serves 2 purposes. First is the legal issues, that there are certain points we have to cover. For example, those questions about the technical things in car. For example, show me how you switch on or off certain things which a normal driver should know. That's a legal part. Then there is a psychological part, to have a discussion and to sort of get the person activated to the process, involve him or her, and to get rid of this anxiety which comes with the exam. So we have a little talk before about the exam. Examiner explains what are we going to do, what are the timelines, what are the requirements, and sometimes asks a little self-assessment or some knowledge about the exam, the main reason is to have a minute or two little discussion to get this person focused on the exam.
That's really interesting, and I completely agree and understand it now, that this little talk can create a kind of a friendly environment between the candidate and the instructor for that time. Okay, so next is like how long is like, the exam is usually around 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Is it a legal requirement, or is it just like you really want to see them going through different areas and doing different maneuvers?
Well, there is quite a bit requirements written down in our legislative acts. For example, if we are talking about the passenger car, we have to be driving in a traffic at least for 35 minutes. But we cannot extend it too much because there is the second and the third and the fourth exam coming along. So it varies maybe a few minutes, but 35 minutes driving plus 10 minutes for the exercises. So, and we have to drive in a little bit on the highway and a little bit in the urban environment.
Okay, so that means the timer starts as soon as this leave the car park
Yes.
area in the office,
Yes.
and then it could be 45 to 50,
Yes.
55 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense. And how have these exercises been chosen, like park in the parking area and then go on a highway at this particular speed, and then these areas, like what is the main, I understand the criteria, but if you can explain a bit more.
Well, those aspects we have to check during the normal driving exams. They're pretty much set down in the legal acts. First of all, those legal acts which set the requirements for driving schools, that they have to teach this and that and the third thing, plus the second legal act which defines exam. There's also pretty much a list of things what we have to check if possible. Obviously, there is not even a traffic light in every city or town. There is not the railroad road crossing. It varies from place to place, but basically we have a checklist what we have to check. For example, parking, driving in city area, outside on a highway. So that is pretty much the legal requirements we have to follow in order to give the assessment if the person is ready to be a safe and independent driver, or if there are some things which are not met the requirements.
Makes sense. And when the instructors are assessing during the test, like, do you have a list of mistakes, or like what is the criteria, or at par you would say, okay, he has made enough mistakes, we have to stop the test and go back? Or is it, if it's a fatal mistake, immediately stop, go back?
Well, we have recently changed our system from the mistake-orientated evaluation to competence-based evaluation, which means that we don't actually count mistakes like we used to do a few years ago. But if there is a hazard, real hazard to the car or the passengers within, then the examiner has to intervene, and that is pretty much the end of the exam. The examiner has to be safe all the time, so that is the main thing. If there are minor deviations from the, let's say, norm, then the examiner, as the judge, has a right to weigh if this thing was accidental, if this was just a minor mishap, maybe try to recreate the system, the same sort of a situation, and to be sure if person understands the traffic signs, the other regulation, was this just a lack of experience or lack of knowledge? There is a slight difference, and it is not as easy as to check the boxes with the mistakes. It requires for the examiner and the driver's candidate both a bit of analyze, but we think that it is more modern way how to assess a driver, not to just counter mistakes, but see a broader picture and try to get the reasons of why this or that sort of mistake or deviation was caused. And this also leads sometimes into little discussion, questions, answers. Why did you do this? What was the reason why you chose this kind of behavior? If the person can explain, I did because of this or that, and it makes sense, then it's not a mistake. Because in traffic situations, sometimes there is not only one right and one wrong way to do it. There are some gray area in between. If the person can explain why this behavior was carried out and it makes sense and it is meets the requirement of safe traffic, then it's okay.
Okay. I'm not sure if you would have number of this data on top of your head. Like, what is the average pass rate of these exams?
Well, it is when we are talking about category B or passenger car, it is a little bit over 50%. It's not that high, but it is getting little by little higher over the years. So we are moving into right direction.
And you think the reason could be because you have changed the assessment criteria, or people are now making sure that they take some classes? If you have any insights on that.
Well, actually, when we changed our criteria of assessment 2-3 years ago, we made a little sort of a step upwards, like 2% towards the better results, and it has been permanent. It was not just one step up, it stayed on that level. So that also shows that we have done the right thing by moving from the mistake-based assessment to this competence-based assessment. It creates better results. It gives also the examiner some freedom to choose if this person is ready to participate as a driver or not.
Right. So another important part during the practical is having a translator.
Yes.
Because the instructors would 90% of the time would prefer to speak in Estonian, national language. Makes sense.
As I explained, there is some technical issues. The intro. For example, if the examiner asks how much there is a fuel in a car, and the interpreter doesn't know what fuel means or what the gauge means, and some other technical issues, windshield wipers. So this requires not the minimal language level, but a bit more advanced. So the one thing that I could recommend is to get somebody from the driving school, because it is not forbidden to have a person who is actually a driving instructor or a teacher to ride along and be as an interpreter, because they have knowledge all about the terminology, and it's the best way. Or somebody who has some knowledge about the technical issues. The best way to test if the translator or interpreter actually can do the job is to go through those technical questions which we have written down on our website. If the interpreter feels comfortable with those, then there is a reason to believe that there will be a okay situation in exam also, because we have those sad experiences where the interpreter knows 3 words in Estonian, go straight, turn right, turn left, and then they get stuck from the first minute, and unfortunately that was just a waste of time, because assumptions were a bit different than the reality.
Okay, and is it mandatory to have a translator, in the sense like instructors are obliged to speak in Estonian, or they can choose if they're comfortable with English as well?
Well, we do have some instructors who speak relevantly good English, but we do not have a system which can show that if you have registered to exam and that you can actually take exam with that instructor, because sometimes we have to change those people. There are some unexpected illnesses, etc., etc. So we cannot guarantee that those few examiners who can actually speak English will be with those English-speaking people. But we also have some other languages, for example, Arab or Chinese. So that's their sort of obligation to get the translator or a person who can speak Estonian and Arab or Chinese. So it is tricky in the little countries like Estonia to have a exam and the translation, but it's manageable.
Okay, and do you have any plans of adding this facility, considering a number of expats in Estonia is growing?
Well, the problem is that there are growing communities of different languages, and obviously, if we get to the point then when it's necessary, maybe, but it's not that simple to get the person who has ability to perform as an examiner and speaks fluently several languages. So that's why we have this requirement of the translator. We have loosened the restrictions on translators. So it can be also a spouse or a friend or a member from the driving school. Yeah. The main thing is that the person is adult, because sometimes we speak about the terms which a child just doesn't understand. So even if you have a sort of a mixed family, one spouse Estonian, another one foreign, and they think that, oh, my children, they are speaking both languages, the children might get stuck with the technical terms. But it's okay to get your spouse or a friend or anybody, we don't mind.
Okay, right, so let's say the person, there are 2 scenarios. If they pass these exams, how long it takes for them to get their new license or Estonian license after that?
Well, actually, you don't have to have physical license in Estonia. Okay. If you have passed the exam, you can drive the next day if you have your ID card with you. Our office have exchanged data with Police and Border Guard Board, and they know from their database that this particular person has got their driver's license yesterday. The physical plastic thing will be available within 1 week.
Okay, and do they have to pay anything extra for the card, or is just included in
It's included.
It's included.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's say now they fail the exam. So from the transport department side, there's no restriction. They can book again as per the availability.
Yes, they can book pretty much right away, and it also, well, it depends. how much you have to wait, because again, in summertime there is more people who try to get their license done, and in wintertime it's easier, shorter sort of waiting times.
If there is there any restriction from the transport department side? Okay, if you fail these many times, you have to go to driving school, and you can't just book another one straight away.
Yes, if the person fails 3 times, then the person has to go back to the driving schools and get some extra lessons, because it pretty much shows that there is a lack in the knowledge. And that's why it is advisable to get your exam reports with you to show the teacher, I failed this, that, and the third thing. Let's double check those things, and it gives also the teacher some information, what are the areas that need some extra lessons.
2 questions. First is, is there any minimum time that you would tell them that they have to attend? And how would you verify that they have attended that time?
Well, at this particular moment, it is 3 lessons, but in the near future, it will be a bit more. The new legislative act will be in force next year, so it varies from category to category. The other thing is how will we know that the person has passed? The driver school will let us know if the person has done this extra course. They will send us data, and then we can open our registration system to this particular person again for the next attempt.
Okay, so it's the coordination between the driving school and your office.
Yes.
That's nice. And where can we get this report that you mentioned, that in which areas we made mistakes?
Well, there are 2 ways. One is through our e-services, if you have this kind of ability, because not all the people can get data from our e-services, but the safest way is to go to our office to show your ID, and the person behind the counter can print it out and hand it over. You can do it pretty much after the exam if the examiner has filled the report, and it's pretty much available immediately.
So this 3-time failing thing, it stands for how long? Is it a minimum time? Okay, you failed 3 times a year ago, it's okay, you don't have to do the lessons, you can go? Or it's going to stand until you complete the lessons?
Well, there is another thing. Our theory exam is good for 1 year, 12 months. So if you have not be able to get your driver's license within 12 months, you have to redo your theory test.
So the pass rate should be higher in summer or in winter? Or do you look at that data as well?
Well, actually, our winters are a bit tricky. Sometimes we have green winters, sometimes we have slippery roads, and it is not really that important if it's winter or summer. You have to adjust your driving, and we will adjust our evaluation to the road conditions and weather conditions. Sometimes it's even easier to pass in winter time because of the natural environment, because there are some things which are hidden under the snow, which are visible in the summer times, and all the other drivers are also taking a bit slower in winter time. So we have not really made that kind of statistics, but it is, I think it is a bit more difficult to do the test in summer times because there are motorcycles, bicycles, and all sorts of other people around you which are missing in wintertime. Just to sum up, read our website. There is a lot of information available. Read the traffic law. Communicate with driver school, and take with you a person who actually can translate technical terms concerning traffic, and then you are pretty much on the safe side.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time and the information, because even I got a lot of information that I wasn't aware of. So I think it'll help many other, especially foreigners, if not too many locals, to prepare a bit more efficiently for the exams in the near future. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.